Well, hi guys, welcome to the session. My name's Paul, this is Plan Z. Hopefully this finds you very well. Today we're going to be looking at amp number 5 in this 20 amp deep dive. There's going to be 2 to 3 videos per amp, and in the first video I'm going to show you how I've set up 5 patches as my starting point. Patch 5, which we're about to dive into, is the GT1000 Twin, the king of cleans they call it. So I watched some videos this morning and I heard some tone that I really liked, so I've set my twins up how this guy set his twins up. Now he was using an ES335, I've got a Les Paul, but I want to start out on the Tele. It's a Fender amp. Let's get the Tele out. So we're Tele single coils, we're neck pickup all the way up. Before we hear it, I just want to show you the output quickly. We're going to go to the output. Now I've set up my sub outs. I want you, if you're going to be trying to copy this tone, set up your global EQ for both your outputs like this, so sub and main. And here, all I'm doing is no low or high cut. I like to do it within the patch because I put different instruments through mine, GT1000. And I leave the level here alone. I take one off the highs, and then I take one of 3.15 on a Q of 2, and I leave the lows alone at 0, okay? So that's helping shape our tone, and that's working in combination obviously with my EQ set around the amp, but most importantly, the cabinets and mics at the end here, which are GT1000. So let's hear things before we get into the detail. That's my low gain. Let's go both pickups. Let's go back pickup. Sorry for my fingers there. It's still quite early in the day and I have problems with a spine injury in the nerves, so sometimes things don't always go to plan for me with my fingers and my feet. So let's go to a medium gain, go to the neck pickup, just pull the gain pot to about 9, and let's get into these cabinets and then the EQ and the amps. So I take the stereo split off, and I set up for the last updates cabinets, which is the 212.3, and I've got a Ribbon 121 on the left and an SM57 on the right. They're both set to the medium, but the Ribbon 121 is set in the middle on a level of 98, and the 57 is set 3 centimeters off axis on 100. All right, that's the only two differences between the two sides. Then here, if you're using a GX or GX 100, sorry about this divide here. It's doing a sidechain to get a wet dry into this one cabinet. Here, if you don't use this, obviously you've only got the one divide. You can just use the divide within the block itself, which is known as the direct level, and you just balance things in there. You'll get a slightly different result, but more or less the same. In fact, be interesting to shoot that out to see how much difference there really is, because I think their sidechain is brilliant and I probably don't need to do that in this patch. But let's see how we get on. Now we've got our 2 amps here. Before we get into the EQ set, let's have a quick look at how we're set up. So let's go to the low gain, where we've got the gain at 60, the sag in the middle, the resonance at 5, and it will be at 5 for all of the amps in all of the patches, because I just really like how the resonance sits in that place on all of the amps. I like what it does to the lows, the mids and the highs, particularly in a distortion. So here I've got the level at 53, I think that is. And then here I've just gone a very simple setting. I've copied this guy's settings, 70, 80, 40, and I've gone 70 on the presence. Okay, I've not got the bright switch on, but it's just a starting point, and then in the next session we'll pull things around a bit, because you can actually get gain out of, it'll be interesting. That session should be interesting. Okay, so here, what I've done is apparently a sweet spot on a twin is somewhere between 2 and 3. After 3, it gets a bit harsh and a bit bit much. Now obviously on a GT1000 we can go up to 120, so I thought, you know what, let's just start at 30. Let's see how we get on. I've brought the sag up to about 3. Resonance the same. The level here at 61, and we're in a medium gain amp that becomes a high gain. Alright, but I'm taking a slightly different strategy with this amp. Now I've never used a twin, so if you've played through a twin, I'd love to get your insight and get your opinion on the tones that we get out of this session, and because you'll be the best place to tell me whether or not this is crap or whether or not this is a good twin tone. So I've got the gain at 30, as I say, level there. Now here I'm going 70, 80, 40. I'm doing exactly the same as I did in the low gain. Alright? And when I change to a high gain, everything remains the same. We're in high gain, everything's remained the same. The only difference is I've had the gain and the sag go up and the level come down a bit, I think. So the gain's gone up to 70. I've gone plus 7 on the sag, and then we've got the level around 46, I think. Okay, so let's hear that. Let's pull that gain pot back a touch. Lovely, let's go back to the medium gain, bring the gain pot up. Now obviously we can get a lot more gain out of this, we could crank that, but we'd want to watch our level. See, the gain's there for us if we want it, but we'll experiment with this in the next session. This is just how I'm set for this session, okay? So now let's look at the most important part of this, which is how the EQ interacts with our cabinet and the output EQ that we looked at the very beginning. So I'm going to start at the beginning of the chain here. I did a session on understanding EQ. If you're not familiar with working with EQ, or you always reach for a graphic EQ because it's what you know and understand, it's what most guitarists know and understand, it's because it's on pedals largely. But if you want to get familiar with using some of the techniques that I'm going to be using in this video to achieve this tone, I did a little video called Understanding EQ to help us in these deep dives, because I don't want to spend too much time showing you how I did it. I want to tell you where I got to, and then we can experiment, spend the time experimenting with effects and amps. So here I'm dealing with the low end and then the low mids, and then after the amp I deal with the high mids and highs. Okay, so here I leave the level alone because I'm taking out strategically slices of frequencies I don't want. So I take out 160, it's a boomer. I take out 250, it's also a boomer. Now the 160 is not as much as a boomer, but I want to be able to bump my lows, and here if I bump my lows, that 160 can be a problem, particularly in live speakers. I'm doing the low cut to 125, okay? In the next EQ, again, leaving the level alone, you'll find by taking these frequencies out using the strategy I'm using, you don't need to bump your level afterwards, we're just cleaning things up. Take out 315, Q of 16, minus 6, it's a boomer. So done the same strategy for all three frequencies so far. The 500, I'm going for a slightly wider Q, Q of 8, minus 6 again. But when I go to a high gain, I've got it on an assign that it opens up to 4. Okay, so now let's go to the EQ after the amp. We'll start with a high cut, where here I'm coming in aggressively at 4K. I'm then fishing around. I found 3.15 was one I needed to take out, or wanted to, and so was 2.50. This will be different depending on the amps, these frequencies. Now, oh yeah, I need to finish this last page. So here, I don't want to boost the level of the EQ, because what that would do is take all the frequencies we've got up until this point and just bring them all up in a straight line. Does that make sense? What I want to do is just boost the highs. Now I've cut highs, so I'm going aggressively boosting these to bring the level back up and leaving the lows alone. And if I feel like I want more bass, I'll add the bass here rather than down here, or I'll add the bass in the amp, because now I've cleaned this up, I can rock my bass in the amp a bit better, okay? So now this EQ here is like an extra. So we're going to turn it off. With it off, I've got my basic twin tone. I'd say that's rich in highs. Let's stick this up. I'd say there, we're still rich in highs, but they're not quite as piercing in the very tops, and we've got around a low mid hump. But I know what my ears are looking for. Let's go to the high gain, turn that off. Let's go to the back pickup. So my volumes are the same, but there's slightly more highs when it's off, slightly less highs, and we're slightly more focused when it's on. Okay, so I'll use that to get either two different tones, or I'll shape the amp here in this section here. And what I'm doing is I'm taking 3 off the overall level of the EQ. All right, I'm going to explain why first. We're bumping 630 Hertz on a Q of 2 by 3, and I'm boosting 1.6K on a wider Q of 1 by 3. And when I do that, it obviously makes the level too loud, so I bring down the frequencies by 3 to balance. That was a good place to balance, but when I do that, I lose highs and lows because it brings everything down. So I just bump the highs and lows by what I bring this back by. So wherever you end up, when you pull it back, just pull these up by the same, depending on what tone you want. Yeah, I just want to see how this sounds to start off with. Okay, so there we are. We understand the EQ set, we understand the amp. In here we've got, from a video from a couple of weeks ago, I'm not going to go into how we dialed it in. I did an explanation of that. It's like an 8-minute video, and I want to save time in this video. But we built a harmonic trem. Now GT1000 doesn't have a harmonic trem. If you understand how we did that, I did the video on the tremolo. If I remember, I might link that below with the EQ video. Okay, so then I've got a spring reverb here going into a compressor, where I'm using like a mastering style compression here. Okay, 1.1, and they're the settings. I won't spend too much time here, because I do that in every patch almost. All right, so what we're now going to do is go before the amp. We're going to look at what the boosts are. So I've got a boost here that's a tube screamer. So let's start medium gain, neck pickup 9, gain pot 9. Bring that gain pot up. Let's go to the high gain and turn it off. Put it on. Pulling the gain pot back. Back pickup. Back to the neck, we're going to turn that off and go back to our medium gain. Turn the neck up. Okay. So now we've got also, you've heard the buzz come on, we've got a fuzz in here. So I'm just pulling the gain pot back on the guitar, the tone back a little bit. Let's go to the neck back pickup now. tone and the gain. On the guitar. Just going full both. Okay, so let's go high gain with that. Pulling back the gain pot. Going medium gain. Okay, what a racket. Hard to believe that's our starting point. So there's my first patch. Okay, so that's the first one of 5. It's actually patch 5. Patch 1 is a duplicate of this patch, but using Two Notes Cab M. We'll have a look at that towards the end of the running through of the settings. Now, this patch is a crazy patch. I'm doing a couple of different things with it. But to start off, let's turn all the effects off. So we've got a Tele echo in here, but bear with me a moment. I need to sort out the expression switch trigger. I haven't done that yet. Now here we've got a very different tone. I'm using very similar EQ set, but the amp is dialed in differently, okay? So here we've got a medium gain where I've got the bright switch on. First difference. The things are being pushed in a slightly different way, not as aggressively. Alright, the gain's up at 50, sags in the middle. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but what we do is we drop the level here and we increase the gain with control. So it's a completely different sounding tone. And on the other side, we've got a low gain that's got a metal zone after it. Okay, there's the settings for my metal zone. We'll engage that in a little minute. I want to talk to you about a couple of other things first. I like to have 2 of my direct mix coming through, and I do like to bump the bottom with a lot of these distortions. I'll keep them flat, but with some of them I like to bump it, depending on the amp, okay? So keep an eye on that as we go through the sessions. Mostly fuzzes, but I've ended up doing it with the metal zone as well. Now, we've got a different bunch of effects that come on. I've got an assign that turns on 3 blocks. The metal zone comes on at the same time. So actually what we might do is turn that off. Okay, so without. Now you'll understand why I used that sound in a little moment. It's slightly crazy as a distortion, okay? Now what I do is I stick on before that, so I'm just going to turn this off to save our ears for a little moment. I stick a phaser on before the amp where I'm using like a step effect. So I'm just going to scroll through the settings for you. Okay, and that comes together with my metal zone, and we're going to have a little listen to that when we crack on the Tele Echo in a second. But first, let's have a look at what happens to what comes on here, where I'm also using a phaser, but using it after the amp to get a slightly different stereo spread we'll get. Okay, now I've also got to come on with this channel. An Octaver has just come on down here, right at the front. Let's just stick that there. We're in mono. We're just using all of the -1 octave, no dry level. If you're in headphones, you'll hear that. If you're not, you probably won't. Now what's happening is we go through the normal EQ set, but here I'm splitting the signal, and I use a high pass filter to let all frequencies over 315 go to the A channel, and the B channel gets all the frequencies using a low pass filter below 315. Okay, then here I put a chorus, and here I've got a limiter. All right, so I'm just limiting the low frequencies there and getting management consistency over them. Now I've put an EQ here in case I need to deal with problems. We can turn that off. So I've got a spare EQ at the moment, so I might want to re-look at my EQ chain. So I'll do that before the next session. So now the other thing to look at here is what's happening back here. So here, let's turn on the Tele echo. So to start with, I've got the heel right back, I've got the volume here, and the tone at -10. But if I increase the level, the tone goes, so the tone's just gone from being back to forward. So the tone goes from -10 to 0, but here time has gone all the way up, okay? So let me just turn that off. And if we pull back all the way back, so we've got very little of it, I think I need to do that second EQ set. But for the moment, let's stay as we are, because I'm not actually using this patch like that. Now, I do have before it a delay that what I'm going to do is just extend the Tele echo, and I'm going to stick on the Octaver. Now, I'm going to stick on a fuzz. We'll look at the fuzz in a little second. So let's just hear. So I hit a note, and you can hear the Tele echo all around me. But if I turn on my delay, you'll hear me hit the note, and then you'll hear the note to the right if you're wearing headphones, and then you'll hear the Tele echo. So you'll get. Okay. So how I plan to use this in a track. Well, let's actually, before we just get back to, let's look at the fuzz first. So the fuzz here, these are the levels. I'm just using a 60s fuzz. Cranking the tone up. Yeah. Not much of the bass coming through here, because although I'm using the Octaver, I need it to sit with a bass. Okay, so I'm being conservative there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the delay. I'm just going to very quickly, I can't remember if I changed anything. Oh, I did. I just turned that EQ off, didn't I? So I'm going to save the patch as it is. And at the moment, we've got that, where when I increase I'm just going to pull back my tone and gain pot a touch, go to the back pickup, and turn up the Tele echo a touch. So let me just pull it back. Yeah, that's quite a good place. I quite like also. So what I might do is see if I can't just take a little loop. Actually, no, I'll save that. That's maybe a bit too busy for now. Stay focused. I'm just going to play in a very quick bass line using this, like a bass synth type line, okay? So let me just pull that. Okay, I'm going to go to the RC505, bring in the beat on the RC600, and then I'll take this loop on the next round. Okay, so I'm going to end that there, and what I'm going to do is show you what happens with the other amp a little later in the session. Now let's get our heads around the two other patches, which is patch 3 and patch 2, where we've got twin setup. Now basically all the patch 2s and all the patch 3s for each of the amps will have all of the same effects in them, okay? So I'm going to be very brief when I cover those, but show you what's going on. really the focus is the stereo patch and how I'm using the amp. So here I've got the gain, a different gain stage up at 50, okay? But the level's lower. Got a bit more sag, same resonance, and here's how I'm pushing the amp on this side. So just a little bit less than my main patch, but I've got the bright switch on, slightly less lows. Now this, let's bring up the... Now we're going through Two Notes Cab M, where we've got a dry signal there and a wet signal here going out to GT1000. My wet signal, I have the twin set and I put the blend on, blend A, in the middle, 100%, okay? Then there's a stereo compressor after that. So here we are in the amps. And now we've got both of them. So I just want you to note that here the level will be slightly different, possibly I think here. Yeah, it's only one difference, but I'm pushing the lows, mids differently, slightly harder on this side, but the bright switch is still on. Yeah? Now, in these amps we've got two gain stages, so let's come up in the middle, go to the neck. Alright, now we've got a compression in here. We can go to the left and we can go to the right. I've covered how that happens in previous videos. We can add some wets here. Stick it on that side. We get slightly different tones because we've got slightly different amps. Let's turn the compression off. Let's come back up the middle. We've got a fuzz in here. Alright, so we can have a little fun with that. Now the wets that are down here, we've got control using the expression pedal again of the time here and the level, alright? But really the focus in here is how I'm using the space echo, which is I've got the same control over the feedback and the level, okay? So that when it's back, I can just give myself some stereo movement. Very subtle. Or I can bring the feedback all the way up, let's say. Well, let's not even bring it all the way up, just bring it up a bit. Let's bring it all the way up. So I wanted it to kind of sound a bit like it was feeding back around me, so I've put a XOD after it, but we might move this to the front of the chain, use one of our divides and try and set up an angry driver for the Fender amps. I think that would be quite cool. So yeah, that's set like this. Note the direct levels coming through. I've just dropped a bit of the bass off. And that's going into a CE1, which is when I move this distortion block, I'll turn on this preamp here to try and get some distortion. Set up the same with the wets here. Okay, so that's that patch. This patch is basically, I copied the patch, set up the amps with a higher gain stage, changed the effects. So all the patch 3s have got the same effects. Here we've got the gain up at 100. Note the level down at 47. The sag is up at 7. Even no, 5, I'm lying. Have the sag at 6. It's going to pull back the gain pot a bit. Cleans up lovely. Now this, we've got the same two amps taking the same strategy. This amp's got its mids being pushed. This amp doesn't so much. Okay, so it's the same strategies. Here at the divide, we're split to 50. And setting the amps up differently like this gives two different things. Helps me get a better stereo spread, but also I have two amps to choose from. When I come up the middle in this low amp, my mids aren't really being pushed. But if I want to do a little solo, I've got this one where my mids are being pushed. Okay, so we've got a drive in here in the form of a blues driver. So let's turn our gain pot back a bit. Let's stick on some verbs. Let's stick on the effect that's in here, which we're just using a phaser. Clean it up a bit. Nice. So down here we've got a reverb where I'm just using a hall, but again, dull, I know. We've got control over the feedback, so I can have it atmospheric, or I can just have like a rhythm. Now I am running with a pre-delay here, so it doesn't get in the way of the guitar, okay? Now the thing of interest in this patch is the delay over here is a reverse delay, so let's just engage that. So now I've just grabbed the tail end of my note and increased the feedback, and that will hang there. And I can now and now that's building up around me, and I can let that hang there. For example, go to the stereo amps, disengage from my wets, bring up my gain pot, go to the back pickup, let's just get out of there. Just going to take off the boost, save my patch. I think what we might do is stay in this patch, actually put on the boost again, go into the back pickup, yeah, so I'm going to take a look at that. Line a little bit that I put in. So now I'm going to go to where the fuzz is. I'm going to engage the fuzz. I'm just going to scroll out so you can see the buttons. Slightly differently, I'm going to play it in again. Yeah, I prefer the movement of that. So let's now go to the patch that I said had some crazy in. So I'm going to go to one that's got a metal zone in it. I'm going to take off the Octaver. I'm going to put on the delay. GT1000, go high gain, put the tube screamer on. Then what I want to do is try the fuzz. Let's go 3, 4. Taking a loop on the next wrap. Oh, I had the wrong looper engaged. I'm an idiot. So unfortunately I've got to take that again. Really sorry about that, going to start it on the next round. Managed to mess it up again, but I'm going to have to work with it because we're heading towards 40 minutes. I'm going to put on a delay. Disengaging, going there, coming in. out there. We're at 40 minutes. I'll catch you later. Take care. Bye bye.